Today happens to be the hoisting of the flag for the Brahmotsavam, and this year, the Devi is going to be mounted on a elephant. The Vahanam, the Gaja Vahanam, has been made in the Shyamala, Sri Rajarajeswari Devi, and it has the peculiarity is that the Yantra for Airavadam is also on the base there. The decorative Sri Yantra that you see here was handcrafted by a lady devotee. Took her more than 2.5 years to perform it. The Sri Yantra and its intricacies are quite well known and worshipped in the Sri Vidya tradition. It's appropriate that this presentation of a virtual tour of this temple was done during the Dvaja Arohanam, the hoisting of the flag prior to the Brahmotsavam, the major festival of the temple. And we invite all who see this to come to the temple and get drenched in the Devi's grace that is flowing continuously from here. Thank you and Namaskaram.
Shrimatre Namaha. Namaskaram, everyone, and welcome back to our Sacred Rites and Rituals of Sanātana Dharma Learning Series, which is a joint presentation by the Sri Vidya Temple Society of Rochester, New York, USA, and Ashtanga Yoga Mandir of Sri Lanka. These lectures are conducted by Sri Chaitanyanandananda, affectionately known as Ayya. Ayya is the founder and Peethadipati of the Sri Vidya Temple. Both Ayya and Amma, Srimati Nyanamba, have dedicated their lives to the noble mission of preserving and spreading the knowledge of Devi worship and the rich traditions of Saiva Bhakti. For more than 40 years, Ayya and Amma have opened their hearts as they continue to share their wealth of knowledge with all those who wish to share in the worship of the Divine Mother and take up the sacred path of Devi Upasana. A few housekeeping reminders before we begin today's session. We kindly ask everyone to use the question form to share any questions you might have pertaining to the topic discussed today. For those viewing our live stream, our question form can also be found on our webpage, which is srividya.org/AYM-lectures. At this time, we will hand it over to Ayya to begin today's session.
Om Hamsasya Vatsoham Hamsaha Hasakafrem Hasakshamalavarayom Hasaum Sahakshamalavarayim Sahau Swarupa Nirupana Hetave Sri Annapurnambika Sameda Sri Sri Amritanandanada Saraswati Mama Sri Guru Sri Padukam Pujayami Tarpayami Namaha. My humble pranams to my esteemed Guruji, Sri Sri Amritanandanada Saraswati of Devipuram, India. I prostrate before him and implore that he sit on my open heart lotus and speak through me. Last week, we saw some of the variations that have arisen out of our ancient tradition of mantra, yantra, and tantra, especially yantra. We saw some of the Buddhist dagobas, and these dagobas are actually based on yantras. If you look at them from a plan point of view, if you have a plan view of them, you will see the yantra clearly. Now, Buddhism is not the only one that has borrowed from us, that has borrowed from the yantra tradition. Buddhism, after all, is an offshoot of Hinduism or Sanātana Dharma. So it cannot be that much different. Of course, there are various views and various traditions in the Buddhist corpus, like Mahayana, Hinayana, Theravada Buddhism, and so on and so forth. Each one of them has their own yantras, their own structure for the worship. Before I go on, if you are very familiar with, or if you are not familiar with, there is a particular author that has done extensive work on the ground plans of various traditions of the Christian Church. His name is Bannister Fletcher. You will see him in this book. He has shown the ground plan of many churches very well known in the old European world. And then you will see that he has shown that one portion, they have used what is called a Latin cross. The crucifix is there in plan, if you see it. And then as time passed, they brought the one portion of the crucifix
became elongated. And the congregational hall was accommodated there. Now, I was always under the impression that such yantras, the Latin cross is a yantra. But once the thing evolved, they let go of the tradition and it was abandoned. Similarly, in the Islamic world, also, although there are various branches of Islam that follow the great prophet, there are some of them that do have yantras. And what they have are called prayoga yantras. That means the yantras that have been used for application of particular aspects. The most common ones are akarshanam, attraction. Then protection from enemies. Now these two yantras, this type of yantras, one may ask how these things arose. Before the Mughal incursions into India through the Khyber Pass, the entire subcontinent, I dare say, before the birth of Buddha, was Sanātana dharmic. Now, in the ancient type of worship, the Vaidika worship and Tantric worship, yantras played a prominent role. We saw that. Now, having experienced the power of the yantras and mantras and the tantra, one can assume that even though Islam was brought into the subcontinent, some of the practitioners of the ancient art could not seem to let go, because I may be mistaken because my knowledge of the religion is very limited, but I don't think there are any mentions of any yantras in the Quran. Similarly, I don't think there are any mentions of yantras in the Bible too. Now, it's very interesting if we can go to the slide of the Islamic yantra that we have found. It's very interesting that the same principles have been shown in the Islamic yantras. Now you can see this is a 19th century Islamic yantra on a copper plate. If we can enlarge the image a little bit, please, you will see there are bija aksharas. Bija aksharas in Arabic on the yantra. This was obviously supposed to be worn like a necklace with a string passing through it. You see the Arabic characters in it. And this is a yantra that we found on the net. There are others, but interestingly, the others are either rectangular or square. The rectangular yantras belonging to the Islamic tradition have Devanagari characters. In the Bijaksharas, they are written in Devanagari. Now here, all Vasikaran Yantra. This is an Islamic multipurpose Nakash. Like a Hindu Sarvasiddhi Yantra, it includes an ayat, which is a holy verse or revelation, just like the Hindu mantra sloka or stotra. So those are written in particular format, and this is supposed to be attracting wealth. And they give advice on how to wear this and how to worship it. The yantra is prepared on a white sheet of paper. The ink used for writing should be a mixture of gulabja, that is rose water, and kesar, saffron sticks. Any pointed wooden stick can be used to write the yantra on the paper. Once prepared, some incense should be offered to the yantra by keeping the yantra in front of the loban. Loban is incense. The yantra has to be folded and inserted in cloth on a metal locket and worn with a chain around the right upper arm. So you see, even though they converted, I think some of the ancestors of the present day Muslims in India could not let go of their original tradition. It is very similar with the Christians too. I never expected that I would find a yantra that has been specially prepared for Christians. If we can go to the Christian yantra also, please. This is a yantra, you can see there's a Chaturastram, a Trivalayam or Dvivalayam, as the case may be, and a Ashtadala Padmam. And in the middle is a crucifix. This is a Latin cross with the tail end of one side increased. And this is supposed to be worshipped. Now, I don't think Jesus Christ ever taught his disciples to draw yantras. There's another yantra also. Can go to the next one. It's very interesting to look at this. This is supposed to be Christu yantra. Now, if you begin to look at it from the bottom or from the see, you see the sides. I don't know whether there's a Chaturastram there, but there seems to be two layers of lotuses, many lotuses, and then instead of the Trivalayam, there are so many circles, concentric circles. And if you start to look at the interior from the base, you will see similarities to a Sri Yantra. But they have drawn, and then there are lines crisscrossing the thing. I have no idea what this is, but this is definitely a later offshoot. Has been achieved. Now, I don't think we should be very surprised, because many elements from Sanātana Dharma of recently have been introduced, especially in the south of India, especially in Kerala, for churches. In front of the church, for instance, there is a Dvajastambam. Nowhere in Christianity is this used. And when some of the dignitaries are interviewed either on television or when they appear in public, they wear ochre robes. Ochre robes are not mentioned anywhere in the Bible. And in addition, they wear a Rudraksha garland. Where was Rudraksham in Christianity? And then they have a flag hoisting ceremony. All these are remnants of the convertees from, the converts from Hinduism. And the idea is that you make the population that is unaware of all these things. What we are trying to teach you is not that different from what you're used to make them comfortable. we do not have any compulsion to convert anyone. But these elements, when you bring them in, you have to have an explanation. What will you tell your congregation what this is about and why you are using this? Because have you seen any of the Christian or Catholic saints wear ochre colors? Wear ochre? You don't. So these have been later additions. Anyway, I think we will continue with the question and answer session that was there. And today is the end of it. So if you have not yet thought of questions, can you please write the questions and then send it to the moderator? Question.
Is worshipping a yantra equal to worshipping its vigraham, or is the worship of one more powerful?
Is worshipping a yantra equal to worshipping its vigraham, or is the worship of one more powerful? Okay. Let me tell you, the power that the vigraham possesses comes from the yantra. So there, your answer is right there in front of you. The yantra is the one that gives life to the murti. And the murti is there because when you have in front of you a physical form describing the mother or Subramanya or Venkateshwara or Saraswati or Lakshmi or any deity that is of your choice, it is easier for you to fix your mind on that form rather than a mass of triangles and circles and lotuses. Besides, worshipping a yantra is a specific ritual. It's job specific. Worshipping a vigraham is specific only to the murti that it describes. Next question.
A Meru is a 3D version of a Shri Yantra. Are there any other examples of 3D versions of yantras?
A Mahameru is a 3D version of a Sri Yantra. Are there other examples of 3D versions of yantras? Of course there are. Several years ago, the Rajarajeswari Peetham, or the Sri Vidya Temple here, published a book on Pratyangira. If you go to the end of the Pratyangira Puja Vidhanam that we published, you will see a Pratyangira, Mahapratyangira Yantra. And if you go further, you will find a 3-dimensional version of the Pratyangira Yantra. And some years ago, we also produced a Navaratri Malar, an offering to the Devi during Sharda Navaratri, about Dasamaha Vidyas. And in each of them, there is a yantra for each of the Mahavidyas and a Meru form. So, yes, the Meru form, the form of the Meru is little more powerful because you know that the surface area of the Meru form is now vastly increased over the flat yantra. So yes, there are yantras. I don't know if any one of the people there, whether you can find the Meru Prastaram of one of the either Dasamahavidyas or there you go. Sri Pratyangira Meru is that one. It's a projection of the Pratyangira Yantra. So there are similar ones. For all the deities, they are there. Next question, please.
Last week, we spoke about the Navagraha Yantras. How do these retain their energy, and do they require daily worship?
If you look at the yantra in front of you, you will see formations. Like outside the figurine, you will find different shapes, right? Each of those is called a mandalam. When you chant mantras for the Navagrahas, the power is retained within those shapes, within the mandalas. The reason why more detail has not been given in here is because if you introduce bija aksharas into this yantra, this is a generic yantra that anybody can worship. You don't specifically need mantra diksha for it. You can sing Kolar Tirupadiyam if you are a Tamil, written by Thiruñāna Sambandamurthy Nayanar, and worship this. Or you can just chant Suryaya, Chandraya, Mangalaya, Budhaya, Guru Shukra, Chaneshwara, Rahave, Ketave, Namaha. That's enough. If the Bijaksharas are there, they will demand worship and it will become a problem. And these yantras can be placed, if you have a Sri Chakram, they can be placed beneath the Sri Chakram. So they all now become yantra pradishtas for the Sri Yantra. I do not know whether you can do this with the other yantras that are there. Surya Yantra, Subramanya Yantra, Varahi Yantra, I don't know. But you can keep it in the same shrine room because the Bijaksharas are not there. What is the harm in offering a few akshatas in the center or flower or two? Next question.
Why do we incorporate different aspects from animals when creating Ashtagandham? And are there alternatives that could be used instead?
I know this question must be coming from somebody who is very sensitive about animals being made to suffer. But what I am talking to you about is what has been there throughout our history. Whether it was yesterday, day before yesterday, or 2,000 years ago, or 5,000 years ago, this is what was used. Even during the time of Nandanar, that famous so-called scheduled caste person who worshipped Shiva and could not go to the temple because of his birth, he used to supply the Shiva temples around with Kasturi, Gorojana, right? Kasturi, Gorojana, and Punuhu. And the scriptures very clearly say that there is no dosha for taking it from somewhere else, from someplace else. So that is the way it has been used. I don't know whether there are any equivalents that can be used that are not of original, not of animal origin. Next question.
Is there a certain orientation in which someone should place the yantra itself when they're worshipping it? And why are yantras placed in that specific orientation?
This has to do with, mostly with this question can be answered very clearly with reference to Tantra. Since this is not a forum where Tantra is going to be discussed, the orientation is that the deity is in front of you and maybe is prone on its back and you are doing the puja, seated at a particular position. Now, if you are seated when the deity is lying flat, if you sit at the head of the deity and if you sit at the feet of the deity, isn't there a difference? There is. Unfortunately, at this time, I can only inform you, let you know that that is a particular reason why the yantras have to have a particular orientation. Next question.
Steel is a relatively new alloy. Was iron used in the old days for Kriya Yantras? What is an example of a Kriya Yantra? And what was the metal tip most commonly used?
Where is the question? Steel is a relatively new alloy. Was iron used in the old days for Kriya Yantras? What is an example of a Kriya Yantra? What is the metal and tip most commonly used? The commonly used metal is copper. And followed by, after it was discovered, Panchalokam. Then there is also something called Ashtalokam. You will find that bronze, Panchalokam and bronze are slightly harder than copper. But they did not use iron in the old days for the Kriya Yantras. Whatever they used was in copper, either copper or gold or silver, Swarnam, Rajatam or Tamram. If these were not available, Bujra leaf was used. There are various kinds of leaves that were used to draw yantras. And there are also yantras that are equated to a Kshanika lingam. That means you create a lingam, Shivalingam, for the duration of the puja, and after the puja is over, you dissolve it in water or disperse it in some way. In the case of yantras, you can draw the yantras on the floor, perform the puja to it, and then disperse the articles that you have, the material that you have used for the yantra, you can disperse it. So in the old days, mainly because of the price of copper was cheaper and it was easier to work with, they used copper. Next one.
Why are some yantras prescribed to be worshipped pravritti margam, so going from center to the outside, and others are worshipped as nivritti margam?
Why are some yantras prescribed to be worshipped in the pravritti margam? Oh my God. Going from the center to the outside. Others to be worshipped in the nivritti margam, going from outside to the center. Now, I thought we discussed this in some of the previous, but I will briefly go over it because it's a waste of time. If you go from the outside to the inside, all the vasanas, vrittis, everything is going to collapse. And you will be face to face with the deity, which is you and the deity are one and the same. You will be faced with your Atma Swarupam, your real consciousness. That is Nivritti Margam, which is the one that is most desirable and which is the one that is in our tradition. Pravritti Margam is something that people usually do. There may be other reasons, but the Pravritti Margam is done for material happiness. Material happiness. You want to have 5 cars, 30 houses, that kind of thing. So, Pravritti and Nivritti are both valid, but each one has a purpose. Next question.
In Sri Chakra Puja, we follow the latter path, so Nivritti Margam, while worshipping each of the deities found in the Sri Chakra. Why is this?
Pravritti Margam is the creative path and Nivritti Margam path of dissolution. Sri Chakra Puja, we follow the latter path while worshipping each of the deities found in the Sri Chakra itself. Why is this? Because you don't want to be bothered with all the vasanas and your pravritti, your prarabdha karmas, nitya karmas, nothing. You want to have darshan of the Devi after you have lost all of these. That is why pravritti margam is there. It's the same question written in a different format. Because the ultimate aim of Sri Chakra Puja is for you to become the Devi herself. Otherwise, Advaitam will not be there, Dvaitam will be there. You and the Devi will not be separate from each other. You will merge with her. Next question.
What happens if you worship a yantra going from the center to the outside when it's not meant to be like that?
If you want to follow something that your mind or your so-called intelligence dictates you, in spite of the admonition that you should worship it from outside to inside, then you will have to deal with the consequences. If you are distracted and that distraction may result in you roaming around the universe for several births, are you prepared to take that? It doesn't end with this. When you disobey what the Shastras have told you, then you will have to face the consequences. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. When the rishis put something down, they had absolutely solid reasons. It is not for vanity. It is not to satisfy a person's ego or sense of intelligence. If you disobey, face the consequences. Next.
Do the number of triangles pointing upwards or downwards on a yantra have a certain significance?
Yes. A good example is the mother and the queen of all yantras and the oldest. The Sri Yantra has 5 triangles pointing downwards. And these are interlocking triangles, 4 triangles pointing upwards. So 5 and 4 make 9. And these interlocking triangles will create precisely 43 triangles. If the lines are not perfectly drawn at each marma, where 3 lines intersect or sandhi, you will find another triangle. And there are texts that tell you if that number is not accurately portrayed, the yoginis will curse you. Now, in this Sri Yantra, what is pointed upwards are called, the 4 triangles are called Shiva triangles. The ones that are pointing downwards are called Shakti triangles. And Shiva and Shakti are in union. When they are in union, the entire cosmos is at peace. When one exceeds the other, then there is trouble. Okay? So this is the reason you must learn the ritual properly from a competent authority. I see when I type in do a Google search of the word Sri Chakra or Sri Yantra, there are so many misconceptions that are shown there. Half of it is pure nonsense, I'm afraid to tell you, but that's the truth. You must know the source from where you get this information. Don't get into or tap into these so-called New Age gurus, New Age philosophies that are cropping up daily. Stick to the original. Like I told you, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Once you have used the pravritti or nivritti margam, the Sri Yantra will lend itself to both. Once you have merged with the mother, then you may be able to read the others and follow the others or listen to the others, and immediately you will know which is right, which is wrong. Okay, next question.
Can we connect our yantra through some sort of string or similar at home to ensure that whatever homa or japa we do are connected to the murti or yantra at home?
The yantras that you keep in your house, are far too small in scale. And the frequency of puja in your home is far too little for this nadi. It is not some string. String can mean nylon string, nylon cord. That will not transmit the power. It has to be either gold, silver, or copper, or cotton for you to be able to transmit it. So the frequency of puja at home, are you sitting in the house 3 times a day and doing the whole puja? Or like in a Shivalayam, are you doing it 6 times a day? No. Therefore, it does not make any difference. The space inside where you are, if it is a room, that space itself will transmit the energy into the yantra. Next question.
When you draw yantra by hand for temporary worship, so under Visheshadgyam, or I think they're referring to the mandalas, is it okay if it's not perfectly drawn?
Post the question. When you draw yantra by hand for temporary worship, etc., is it okay if it is not perfectly drawn? You must try to make it as perfect as you can. I'm sure if you devote a little time to it, you will be able to achieve it. So I don't see any reason. Are you asking whether it can be drawn freehand? Yes, of course, if your hand is steady and you can do it. But if you draw a line and the line is like an earthworm squiggling around, then obviously you cannot use that. It has to be drawn more or less accurately. If you are going to draw it by hand, temporary worship, you say temporary worship, that means every day when you do Sri Chakra Puja, if you want to do it, yes, you can say, Iti Bindu, Iti Trikona, Iti Vritta, Iti Chaturapangam Mandalam Vilikya. Finished. That does not make any difference. If that is what you are asking, that's perfectly fine. Next.
Why do some deities have the same yantra?
Okay, very interesting question. Many times this has been asked. Now take a look at what do you call that? A condominium building. From the penthouse downwards, every condominium will have the same configuration, one on top of the other, one on top of the other. But the people living in there, one may be Chinese, one may be Ukrainian, one may be Canadian, the other may be American, like that. So whichever deity that occupies it, the yantra is the same for the divinity that is contained in it. And you can map any divinity into that yantra. That is why some of them are the same, but the Bijaksharas, if they are written inside, you will find that there is a big difference, that they are completely different. Many of them have the same configuration. Next.
Why do Shyamala and Madangi have different yantras?
I thought we answered this last time. We answered this last time. Madangi and Shyamala. Do you do Shyamala? Do you do Madangi Yantra Puja? You do Shyamala Yantra Puja. Shyamala is job specific of the same deity with a particular portfolio given to her by the queen. So she has other responsibilities. If Madangi and Shyamala have the same duties, right? Then who is the Mandrini? Mandrini has the job of taking care of the Devis, of the empress, her, the government, what you can equate to in modern times. Rajyabaram. Without Madangi, Rajashyamala, and her attendants, Naguli, for example, without the confluence of these three, the knowledge quotient for obtaining full knowledge of Sri Yantra and understanding and correlating what is required will not be possible. So she is job specific. And similarly, what Varahi does is she will knock down all the unnecessary appendages, the excess baggage that you are carrying, she will knock it down. So these two are different. Madangi and Rajashyamala. Although we just for convenience sake call it Shyamala Yantra, it is Rajashyamala Yantra. Next.
Those are all the questions that we received so far.
There was one question that was sent.
Oh.
Somebody, that question had a peculiar twist to it. I was going to answer it. Can you refer to it and see?
Oh, okay.
There is a particular question that has come from somewhere.
Sorry.
Can we go through the slides, please, from start to finish? In the meantime, you can search for that question. Start with the first slide and go down. Now, various Yantra Pujas have got different connotations, different methods. The same Yantra that has been worshipped. Now, here is a Sri Chakram with the Devi in the center. These are characteristics of a deity. Next slide. Mantra, Yantra, and Tantra. Mantra is the sound form, Tantra is the method of unifying the sound and the geometric form of the deity. Yantra is the geometric form. Next. Origin of yantras, we went through this before. Okay, I don't want to be going through that over again. What are yantras? Yantra means a machine, geometric form infused with divinity, which runs and functions like a machine. Intricate geometric forms with ancient writings are present around and beneath Dravidian temples. Not only Dravidian temples, they are present everywhere. If you have a temple, there is a yantra underneath. Okay. Kesadi Padandam, Padadi Kesandam, the traditions of worshipping a male and female deity. If it is male, Padadi Keshantam. This is reversed here. Then the effect of yantras, the pratishtas under each murti. This is what it is. Next. What is a yantra puja? A form of worship practice where auditory seed sounds of the deity are mapped and worshipped within the yantra. Subsidiary deities are identified throughout the yantra and appropriately worshipped. Up until this time, only a privileged few were privy to the method of performing these pujas, which were closely guarded by their practitioners as a result of extensive efforts by our beloved Guruji, Sri Amritananda Saraswati. Simplified methods of performing these rituals are now available to all. There are many who still do not agree with it. Next. Why perform a yantra puja is to energize the murti. That question that was asked, is it appropriate to worship the murti or the yantra, which is more important? It's the yantra that you have to worship. In all the temples, the power of that temple is entirely on that because of the yantra that is there. Next slide.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have the question.
Okay. You can pause this and post that question.
Okay. So prior to the start of the yantra sessions, someone had purchased a set of 3 triangles and a square inscribed with Sanskrit Devanagari from a seller in Austria of antiques from Nepal and Tibet. Since hearing the yantra lectures, they're now concerned about placing them on their altar in a proper way. Is there anything they can do to make certain the energetic properties will be positive when enlivened, given that they don't know the exact origin or previous use of these items? Or is it best to not include them on the altar?
First of all, whoever who has bought this yantra, my question is, why would you buy a yantra without knowing what it is? It's like going into a gun shop and just blindly putting your hand out and picking up whatever that comes. Of course, they're all guns. Some of them can shoot 600 rounds a minute. Some of them, you'll have to squeeze them 6 times. I would not touch a yantra if I did not know from where it has come and what it is supposed to be. From what you describe, I purchased a copper set. I purchased a copper set of 3 triangles and squares inscribed with Sanskrit Devanagari from a seller in Austria of antiques from Nepal and Tibet. Oh. It could be, if it is from Tibet, it could be a Buddhist yantra. You know, because there were these 2 great schools, Milarepa and, Mayopa. And Nepal, I would say, don't take a chance because you don't know what orientation that yantra should have. And if it has Devanagari script, letters written into the yantras, that means you have to do daily puja to that yantra in the proper method that has been sanctioned for that yantra, not any other. So I wouldn't place it on the shrine. I would not. I don't know the exact origin or previous use of these items. It is best not to include them on the altar. Of course, if you are a Sri Yantra, if you are a Sri Chakra Upasaka or Sri Vidya Upasaka, and you're worshipping a Sri Yantra, place the Yantra underneath the Sri Chakra, it won't bother it. She will take care of it. Not otherwise. Okay, can we go back to the slides? Geometry of Yantra, composed of concentric enclosures called avaranas. Then, normally the center of the Yantra is at the Bindu, where the principal deity is being worshipped. Deities, retinue or subsidiary or attendant deities are located in other parts of the Yantra, such as Bhupura, square, Vrutta, Valaya. Enclosures made of 16 petals, 24 petals, 28 petals, 36 petals, and so on. Triangular forms such as stars, pentagons, hexagons, and octagons. These can be in any yantra. Next. Correspondence to the atomic structure. We saw this, where the orbits of the electrons is shown. It is very similar to that. Next. Yantra metals, gold, swarna, copper, tamra, silver, rajata, bronze, pittala, palm leaf, bujrapatra, granite, sila. All of these, the granite yantra, there are two yantras that I know of in South India that are there. One is in the Kaligambal temple, installed by Adi Shankara. It is in Ardhameru and it is in sila form. The other one is in Mangad, Kamakshi temple, which is also an Ardhameru, done in sila form. And the next one is in Kanchipuram, which is a Kailasa Prastaram or the Sri Chakram in front of the Devi. Next. Preparing the yantra, akshara laksha, number of syllables times 100,000 repetitions. Yes. And examples are given: Mahaganavati 28 lakhs, Subramanya 6 lakhs, Mahashodasi 28 lakhs. Next. Sources for Yantra Puja: Sri Vidya Tantram, Prapanchasara Sangraham, Sarva Saluva Kalpam, Parasurama Kalpa Sutram, and others. There are many of them. Every deity will have a speciality somewhere, and you will have to look it up and you will have to locate it and research it and find out whether that is proper for your sampradayam, and confirm it with your guru or Paramaguru or Parameshti Guru if all three are available. Next. Tarpana Archana can be used, example, Kunkuma can be used indefinitely, Bilvadala can be reused for 7 days. Lotus petals can be collected and reused also. Some people say 6 days, others say 12 days. Atma Anusandhanam is a technique merging with the deity using the LSN Nama, LSN mantra. Lalita Sahasranamam, Atma Anusandhanam, Sri Vidya, Aikya Anusandhanam. Aikya Anusandhanam, it's, I don't know whether somebody called it Atma Anusandhanam. Aikya Anusandhanam is merging with the principal deity. That means you worship with Mahatirupura Sundari, you merge with Mahatirupura Sundari, and that's the end of it all. Next, please. Muncha. Muncha. Next slide, please. Now, these are examples of Yantra Pujas that have taken place in the Sri Rajarajeswari Peetham or Sri Vidya Temple Society during festivals like Sarada Navaratri. Some of the things that you see there can be used to decorate the yantras. Okay? This is Shyamala. Raja Shyamala. Varahi Yantra Puja. Keep changing. This is also Varahi. you can understand how long it takes for the devotees to decorate these yantras. While they are decorating it, they are doing their Mula Mantra Japam. Yeah. Ashwaruda, not Tiraskarani. Durga Yantra Puja. Go ahead, keep changing. It's another Durga Yantra Puja. Mahalakshmi Yantra Puja. Each of these yantras is 8 feet by 8 feet square. And the decorations are done to match those. See, this is Rajarajeswari, Sri Yantra. Kali, Tara, Madangi. Mahalakshmi, Kamalatmika. This again a Kali Yantra. What is this? Dhumavadi. Chinnamasta. Bhuvaneshwari. Bhairavi? Tripura Bhairavi. Bogalamuki. Bogu. Dattatreya. Keep going. I think we're way past the time. It's 3 minutes past time. Devika, Jyotita, Enkanidam, temple architecture, types of yantras. Please keep going. Next. Jyotitam, astrological yantra. Next. Enkanidam, numerology. Next. What is the reason for making yantras? Next. You can read all of these, download these and read. Next. Ashtagandha, the differences are, the materials are shown here, so you can find those. Next. Have we run out of time? I think we are 5 minutes over time. So let's stop here. Next week, being Navaratras for our Shyamala, Shyamala, there will be no class at 8 o'clock in the evening. It will be continued after the end of this Navaratri. Thank you. Namaskaram, everybody.
Thank you, Ayya, for sharing your knowledge about the ever-sacred Yantra Puja. The knowledge you have shared is a true gift to experience, and we're excited to learn more about other sacred rites and rituals within Sanātana Dharma in the upcoming sessions. As a reminder, as Ayya just mentioned, we will not have a session for next week. For more information about Shyamala Navaratri, please visit our website, which is srividya.org. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us for today's session. At this time, we will hand it over to Vyasanka from Ashtanga Yoga Mandir to begin today's session.
Greetings and pranams to Haranaya and all the devotees of the Sri Vidya Temple and the members of the Ashtanga Yoga Mandir and all those who are viewing this while live. So today we will learn one of the most important aspects in the yoga culture which is about Varma. Dharma is basically the vital points and the vital locations in the system, which supports and which elevates the energies of an individual. So in a basic level, their body consists of 108 Dharma points, and then when you attach that specific location, when you give a specific pressure, and sometimes, there are sometimes in the Western system, they call it as some pressure points are there. So when you activate it, you have a headache, you activate it here, you have a headache, you activate. So there are various pressure points. In the yoga system and also in the Siddha system, you will see that the Varma locations are prescribed in size and prescribed in locations and its activities. So in that way, today we will look into one of the most important Varma points. And that Varma point is called as Nadi Shutra Varmam. So basically, those who have pain, sometimes, after a certain age, you have certain pains in the finger region. Or even sometimes there is a new type of problems which comes, like when you go on WhatsApping, when you go on typing, what happens, certain parts of the fingers are used and some parts of the fingers are not used. So some are overused and some are not used, or sometimes some are overused with abused. So for that purpose, what happens, that certain Varma points are important to activate it. So today we will look into one of those Varma point, which is called as the Nadi Shutra Varma. So basically, like, you take your left hand and you place it like this. When you place your 4 fingers, then the small finger where it touches is basically this location is where you find that Varma point. So basically what happens is that you slowly start activating it 27 times. Very gently. And then all of you will do it. So same thing, you will do it on the other side. Keep it, hit the point, and then slowly you activate it for 27 times. And then now you know the basicness of both the points, and then you slowly start activating both the points in both the sides of your right, 27 clockwise. And then same thing, you take your other hand, take it like this, take it up, and then activate it in that specific region of the Nadi Shutra Varma. So basically those who have hypertensions and those who have pain in the finger region, and also for those who have very early stages of bronchial asthma, this location, activation of this will help. And now you know exactly, when you keep it like this is the point, and then you start activating 27 times in this location. And then again, you keep both the hands, that is your thumb and the index finger, in the exact location, and then you slowly start activating. So when you go on activating this point, it helps tremendously. So this Nadi Shutra Varma is one of the Varma point which is connected with a lot of the nervous system, the brain region. So that is what, like when you have the hypertensions or various things, headaches and everything, you start activating in those points. And especially when those who are doing the Nadi Shuddhi, or when you're doing the pranayama practices, for some people there is a shiveringness which takes place in the fingers to get that grip, the strength, because there's very important that the pressure is used equally for that. And also for the mudras, for the mudra vidanas, it's very important that you have the strength in the perfect manner. So activating the Nadi Shutra Varma helps you tremendously. So this is one of the important vital points for the prana absorption and the prana distribution in the channel system. So thank you very much. We will complete the sessions with the channel. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you.